Hello, Lisa. So thanks so much again for coming. I'm so grateful to have you here. So let's get started a little bit with your story with, let's chat with what you have to chat about today.
Sure. Well, my story of adversity, we all have one, actually goes back just over 8 years ago. And on a regular Tuesday night, my daughter left the house to run a quick errand, or so we thought. And instead of her coming through the door at 10 o'clock at night, because my kids always had to be home at 10 o'clock on a school night, we got the knock on the door that every parent fears. And in my front entry stood a police officer and a lady in black. And my husband said the minute he opened the door, he knew. I was staring at these two, expecting them to tell me that, something had happened to someone else. And when he sat us down and said, Mr. and Mrs. Boehm, I regret to inform you that your daughter Katie has been killed in a head on collision. I never in a million years could have seen that coming. You know, we all think that our kids are rock stars, and they are in their own rights. But Katie was the kid that I never worried about. She was headstrong, but in a really healthy way. She she had her sights set on the future, on her education. 6 days prior to her accident, she'd actually earned herself an entrance scholarship, $3,000 scholarship into the Faculty of Nursing here at the U of R. And I laugh about it now, but at the time, I think it was called Power School. I think these names change all the time, but this was the access portal for parents to log into the school to check their kids' attendance, to check their marks, any outstanding assignments, and so on and so forth. I didn't know how to log on to that because I didn't have to. She'd come home and say, Mom, I aced my physics exam. I got 98, whatever it was. And that's great. I had no idea you had an exam, but that's great. And she had the time management skills probably better than any 40 or 50-year-old that I know, because she was a competitive dancer most of her life. And when you dance that much, you need to really be on top of everything in order to get those 95% averages that she had. So she was very focused on her future, focused on education, had healthy habits, healthy approach to life. She had dance, so, physical exercise, proper diet were all just ingrained in her. And she really didn't get into partying or anything at that. She was 17 and a half when she passed away. And she had very clear, this is a good thing, this is not a good thing. And she was dating a fantastic guy. In fact, the son of a doctor that I was working with. Fantastic family, just a really super guy for your daughter to be dating. So, I really didn't think I had anything to worry about. And then the unthinkable happened.
Jeez. You know, oh, that is a lot. I'm so sorry, Lisa. Prior to our conversation, I didn't realize um what Forever 17 meant until now. And so I'm so truly sorry for your loss. That is just an awful thing to have happen. I can't imagine, you know, and so I really applaud you for your ability and your bravery to have this conversation, to be open in that experience, because we all certainly have adversity. I fully agree with that, but I think this is a next level kind of adversity to lose daughter. So, truly, your bravery is just so appreciated here to bring this story to light. Yeah,
Thank you. It's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And when people say, I can't imagine, I don't want you to imagine. I don't want anyone to have to know what this is like.
yeah, of course, of course. And so, with this experience, I know now you have a podcast and you're a speaker. So it sounds to me, without ruining the plot line, that you may have turned your pain to power. So let me hear a little bit of a glimpse into your experiences now, where you've come and where you've moved to.
You know, it when I look back, and I think when we all look back from our tragedies, it seems very crystal clear. There seems to be a bit of a path, but when you're in it, when you're in your stuff, it just seems like you're trying to find your way out of a bowl of spaghetti. It's messy and it's hard, and you just, some days I felt like I was standing, at the front of a thousand paths, and I really didn't know which direction to go. And sometimes you just got to try, and you might go down a road. No, not for me, not for me, not for me. But from the very beginning, what felt comfortable and what felt soothing and the right thing for me to do was to talk about Katie all the time, and to do small acts of honoring is the best way that I can say it. I fear, as all grieving parents do, my greatest fear is that my daughter will be forgotten. It's
Mm.
already been 8 years, and I'm so happy for her friends, but her friends have gone on. Some of them are getting married, some of them are having children. Their milestones are still happening. My daughters are not. And I try to find ways to kind of bring her along with me in my life. And those little those little ways just kind of present themselves. I really truly believe that she is still with me, and I know that might sound a little bit wacky to some people. um, After everything I've been through, the experiences I've had, I just really truly believe that there is so much more than this human existence than we are living. And I almost look at this human existence as some kind of a university, that our souls are here to grow and learn. And the growth
Yes.
the growth never happens with the easy stuff, right? The growth never happens
No.
when your feet are up on the lounge chair in Hawaii, or the growth never happens when, you're watching your child walk across the stage getting their diploma. Those are great, great experiences, but unfortunately the growth comes from the yucky, yucky hard stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but early on, it gave me strength to do things in Katie's memory. So she was in grade 12 when she passed away. And I was working a lot, very, very closely with the guidance department for two reasons. One is my son was 15 when Katie died. And as you can imagine, he was riding the struggle bus himself in 100 different ways. But we were also working on a scholarship for Katie. So I was in the guidance counselor's office a lot, and we actually became very good friends. And in the course of all these visits that we had, I learned very quickly that there are a number of families who were really challenged with the prices of buying grad dresses and the fancy shoes and the fancy updos and all the things that come with grade 12 grads. And so, I sent out a Facebook message and I said, ladies, does anybody have any gently used either bridesmaids dresses or grad dresses that they would like to donate? And I think within 2 weeks, we actually started a closet at her high school. And it's a very it's not something that they advertise per se, but the guidance counselors know who might be in a position that might need a dress. I've bought dresses for girls who maybe couldn't find something in the closet. We started a garden, a memory garden at the high school, but it's just these little projects that really kept me going. And I found that helping others, whatever that looked like, helped me along my journey too. And it just took me out of my own pain for a while.
Yeah. Wow. It's just a perfect example of how helping others can raise our frequency, can bring us into this other place, this transmutation of pain, and really alchemy in this instance, really alchemizing the experience that you went through. It's just a perfect example of that. I think that so often, like you said, I love how you say struggle um, is what really helps you grow. And I agree. I always say I wish I could learn all of my experiences from drinking tea with a guru somewhere. I wish that that was the way we learned, but it isn't. We in my own journey, going through cancer brought me to helping others, and it's just that experience that we go through, that when you go through your experiences, you have an option. You can let it make you bitter and not better, or you can flip it. And you certainly have flipped it. That doesn't mitigate the pain, that doesn't make it go away, but it can ease the pain, I think. I think by that transmutation can bring us to a place where, you know, we're not necessarily glad it happened, but we've grown into a person that we never could have been without it. Does that resonate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think yourself and anybody else who's faced some kind of big trauma, tragedy, adversity in their lives, your life becomes very quickly defined in two timelines: before and after, right? Before the cancer, before Katie died, all of that kind of thing. And I would sell my soul to the devil himself to have my daughter back. But the lessons that my soul has learned, the person that I have become, I am so grateful for all that I have learned and all of the gifts that she has given me in her death.
Right. Right. Beautifully said. I have chills. That's really quite beautiful. Yeah. Aw. Oh, well, just in a moment to breathe on that one. That was really beautifully said. Mm. And so what happened after that? So yeah, I know you've moved into all of these beautiful things. You've the memory garden, the helping the girls. Are you still working there? I know you've got a podcast now.
Yeah, the journey really, I mean, in the short version is about 3 years out after losing Katie. I said to my husband, I want to write a book. And he said, You want to what? What on earth are you going to write about? I said, I want to
Lots.
write about I want to write about our journey of losing Katie. And he says, Who's going to read that? And I said, I don't know. But I said, if that book can help one person, then it's worth the effort. And I spent 9 months. It was like birthing a baby. I spent 9 months writing the book and another 6 months editing the book. And it was a process I really enjoyed. And I have to say, it was very cathartic, very cathartic. And again, not to get too woo woo or too crazy, but I really truly believe that that was Katie actually writing through me. Um, I used the
Woo woo
pen
is
name.
safe here. I love
Okay,
woo woo.
because
Yeah,
I'm
you're
all
great.
about the woo woo.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
but Katie was the writer. I was not. If you had told me 10 years ago that I would write a book, I would have laughed and I would have said I would have been way more likely to scale Mount Everest than to write a book. And here I was writing a book. It, I'm so absolutely certain that she helped me write that book, that my pen name on the front, I used her initial K in my name. My middle initial is not K, but I used Lisa K Boehm on the cover. The graphic artist that I used to help me create the cover, I said, Katie has to be a part of this cover. And we tried different things and it just didn't look right. And then I was looking for domain names, right? Because an author has to have their own website. And Lisa Boehm, which you wouldn't think is a super common name, was taken. So I was like, oh my
Ah,
gosh, well, what am I going to do? And then it just was like, bing, Lisa K. Boehm. Anyway, yeah. But
beautiful.
so I wrote a book. And then after that, my approach to grief is maybe a little bit different. I truly, truly, truly believe that life can be good again. Will it ever be as good as it was before? Maybe not. But I grab hold of joy when it shows up in my life. It's not here every day. I'm not doing cartwheels and, all that kind of thing. But when it shows up, I hang on to it. And it's possible. I really believe it's possible. And I wanted to write a book and to just get that message out to the universe that, the acute grief, we got to do it. We got to do the ugly, messy, snotty grief. It is an essential part of healing. Because if you don't do that, there is no joy ever. But
Yes.
once you get past, and it's not that you ever get past grief, but once you can get past the acute grief, then that's when you can explore opening yourself up to some of these things. And then I created a course. And again, it was exploring spirituality. It was exploring connection to our children in a different way. And it was exploring this concept of joy. And that was all fine and great. People loved it. But grief isn't something that you just finish in a 6-week period, right? Grief is ongoing. So I actually created something I had so much resistance to this for so long, but it's a membership. It's a membership because initially I thought, ew, a membership for grieving mothers? Like, how gross can you get? Who wants to belong to that? But it has just been a marvelous, marvelous thing. People come when they're ready and, they can spread their wings and fly when they're ready, or they can stay with us as long as they want. But it really is a unique space where we really talk about learning to carry our joy and our grief together. I had this big aha moment. It was about, gosh, I'm going to say about 6 months after we lost Katie, and we were walking on a beach in BC, Nanaimo, BC. And it was one of those stellar, perfect days. We had come down to the beach through a hike, through a path in the trees. And, it just kind of opened up onto this beach. We weren't expecting that. It was my son, my husband, and I. We tried to travel a fair bit after we lost Katie just to learn how to be a family of three. But, anyways,
Yeah.
we were on this trip and we were walking down the beach, and my husband and my son were further down the beach than I was. And I remember tipping my head up to the sun and just drinking in that warmth and looking over at the forest on one side, the ocean on the other, my feet just on the edge of the water. It was just perfect. The sun was like wrapping me in this warm blanket and, just smiling and feeling joy. And it was almost like I could hear the car tires like screech, like, what is wrong with you, Lisa? What is wrong with you? You've got a child that's dead. But then, a few seconds later, I thought, well, just because I felt this really quick moment of joy, did I forget Katie? No. Did my grief leave me magically and weirdly? No. So I talk about this analogy of carrying grief in one hand and joy in the other, and that they
Mhm.
can and do coexist. And I think
Yes.
once we can wrap our heads around that, and it doesn't have to be grief and joy, it can be pain and life, it can be, whatever resonates with you. But I know I have been guilty in the past. I guess maybe I just didn't know. Our emotions are not silos. We are not just feeling angry at any given time. There might be frustration, disappointment, shame, guilt, a myriad of emotions in there, right? And that's the way grief is too. We can feel grief and happiness at the same time. And it seems weird to say that, but it's so true. And
Yes.
that's really my big premise when I am working with grieving mothers. And for some people, that doesn't resonate. They don't think it's possible. And that's fine. I'm not for them. They're not for me. And I know there's some other fantastic groups out there that can help them. But that is my premise. And it just, when I speak those words, I feel like my daughter is like standing right over my shoulder and cheering me on. Like this is her message for the world as well.
Yes. I so agree with all of everything. I just want to drink it all in. I completely agree with everything that you're saying. I think our loved ones, um, they want us to be happy. What kind of honoring are we doing for our loved ones when we are in sadness and discomfort just to honor them, right? That's not something that we would want. If I think about myself when I was facing what I thought could be my death, that was the main thing on my mind is how will I leave people without grief so that they can move on, so that they can be happy. And so I think that's a testament to truly, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that your daughter would want exactly what you're saying. This duality of can you hold both? Can you have grief because it's inevitable, but can you also learn to have joy again and honor them in that way? It's beautiful.
I will just add the timelines are a little bit fuzzy, but at some point along my journey, I had seen a psychic, and I've seen probably 15 or so over the years. But this particular lady and what she said to me stuck with me so strongly at the end of our reading, which was phenomenal. She said, "Give your daughter something amazing to watch." And even as I say that now, it makes me choke up and it just covers me with goosebumps. You know,
Yeah.
give your daughter something amazing to watch. So sometimes when I, am being griefy, it's like, okay, you know, well, let's make Katie smile. Let's do something for her. And getting back to something that you said earlier about our our vibration. I have learned that our spirits, anyone around us, our loved ones, our spirit guides, or whoever, operate, at this very high vibe place. And grief itself is very low vibe. So if I want signs from my daughter, if I want to feel connected to her, I've got to find my way up to that high vibe place. And that circles back to the gratitude we talked to. That speaks to joy and on all of those things. So there's just so much at work that really encourages me to find the
Yes.
joy where I can.
Extraordinary. My goodness. Amazing. Wow. So tell me about your book. This is so exciting. I didn't know you had a book. This is so cool.
Well, the book was kind of a secondary thought to this short story that I wrote. Now, remember, I was not a writer. I excelled at,
Right.
writing in school and all that, but it was just not something I ever thought of. Very shortly after we lost Katie, I kept having this recurring thought, I guess is the best way. It was like a dream, but it would happen when I was awake. And maybe it came from all the hours of watching her on stage as a dancer and watching tons of dance competitions and so on. But it was these dancers that were on stage. And these were dancers that might even have been young adults. And they all had suitcases in their hands. And there was a dance where they came together facing each other, like maybe eight dancers, but they were all kind of paired up. They were coming together and they had their suitcases, and then it was just this incredible dance of grief. And I can't even put it into words, but it kept showing up in my thoughts. So I grabbed my laptop one day and, like, honestly, within 10 minutes, I wrote this short story about a suitcase and then looked at it and thought, where did that come from? Like,
Mm,
it poured out of me. And in a nutshell, the short story was about a man who comes to my door and hands me this hideous, awful suitcase that feels like it's filled with rocks. Gives it to me and he leaves. And it's
mm,
something that I drag around with me. And it's so freaking heavy. Everything in my body hurts. It's agony. It lays on my chest at night when I sleep with it. People look at me, they feel sorry for me for having to drag this horrible thing around. I kind of unzip the corner at one point, look inside, and it's black and it's blah. So I zip it up. Anyway, long and the short of the short story is that one day I get brave enough to open it up fully, the suitcase. And actually, what's inside of it is love and beauty and all kinds of wonderful things. And then I tie it back to the metaphor of the death of my daughter and what she has left me. So, anyway, I sat on that short story. I shared it with a few people and they said, "Oh, you got to publish that." And I said, "No, because when you publish things, oftentimes it becomes the magazine or whatever's their property, right? Nope, not giving this away." So I
Yeah.
sat on it. And then when my husband said, "Well, what on earth are you going to write about?" I said, "I want to expand this short story about the suitcase and the journey through grief. And I want to build it out." And that's what I did. And I actually used the letters from the word journey. Sorry, I take that back. I use the letters from the word healing to all be a chapter. So H is honoring, E is exercise, diet, and sleep. A is finding assistance, and so on and so forth. And
Wow.
really not only brought into the book all of the aspects that have helped me on my journey, but I also have 32 snippets from other grieving moms who've lost children in other ways, who are other ages, just on their reflection of certain topics that I covered in the book.
Beautiful. Oh, what a I want to read this book. That sounds wonderful. Oh, how cool. I love you have such a vast creativity, for someone who didn't feel like you could write. I think that this is such an intricate plan, and it's executed so beautifully. Like it sounds like a wonderful book, and I'm sure it's done very well. I hope it's done very well because it needs to be in more people's hands. So I'm really excited that we're chatting about it because I'm going to link that book in the show notes. And then your courses and your classes, and you just turn things into such a beautiful memento, and such a high frequency after everything.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
that is just extraordinary. Any final thoughts that you could leave with the listeners?
Grief is one of those taboo subjects. And even
Mm,
myself, I didn't know anything about grief until I was in it. And honestly, that's the worst time to be learning about it is when you're in the
fair.
weeds. But that's our culture, right? Like even if I say I'm a grieving mother, people get that horrified, wide-eyed look and you can almost feel them backing away from you like you've got some hideous disease that they might catch. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear about it. But I think that the more we talk about it, the more we quote unquote normalize it. I don't know if that's the right word. We're getting that way with mental health. We are
Yes.
getting better at having those conversations. Mental health is almost, dare I say, a sexy topic right now, but
Yeah.
grief is still right? Nobody wants to talk about it. But my goal, my mission is to make it more relatable and just open those doors of conversation.
Yes. Yes, and it's so important. I agree wholeheartedly. I had a conversation yesterday about exactly that, about how what's really truly missing from the world is this ability for people to share their experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but specifically the bad and the ugly. We're not enough people are able to look at another person on social media or whatever it is, because that's where everybody is now, and say, "Oh, I see myself in them." There's a lot of comparison and feeling of I'm not enough because that person doesn't struggle in X, Y, and Z quadrant. And so I think that, really what you're doing as a soul leader is just so beautiful, because when people hear I'm a grieving mother, but they are a grieving mother, that sentence can lift them up so much, knowing that there's another version of them out there. And then you took it further. You wrote a book, you created courses and classes. I think that those are the things that are so needed And I agree that mental health has become more trending, which is good,
Yeah, for sure.
but we need a little bit more depth of just, trending. What is the mental health? What are the problems there? And
Mhm.
so sharing it and normalizing it, I do think is so important. Thank you for
Agreed.
your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I think on this high note, I will end here. And again, I cannot thank you enough for your bravery, and for your eloquent way of explaining everything so much. I can think of so many people who I'm going to share this episode with, outside of the listeners, but in my own personal life, people who have lost people. I know I have, I know my mom has. So I think about those people. And so I really, truly am looking so forward to sharing your gift of making others feel seen and gracefully going through all of these experiences. So thank you, Lisa.
You're very welcome.